air in Tiryns was thick with the weight of expectation. High atop the stone steps of the palace, King Eurystheus sat upon his golden throne, his gaze locked upon the man before him. Clad in a lion's pelt, muscle sculpted by relentless toil, Hercules stood unmoved, his broad chest rising and falling with steady breaths. Though he was a demigod, the son of Zeus himself, he remained bound to commands of this mortal king, a cruel twist of fate imposed by the vengeful goddess Hera. Eurystheus regarded Hercules with a mixture of awe and fear. Though he commanded the hero, he knew well that the strength Hercules wielded could shatter his throne if fate allowed it. And so, with a voice that wavered only slightly, he delivered his decree. "Your next trial," he said, leaning forward, "is to slay the Hydra of Lerna." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the guards stationed along the walls cast uneasy glances at one another. They had all heard of the Hydra, the beast that lurked in the treacherous swamps beyond Argos, a monster with venom so potent that even the scent of its breath could bring death. It was said that no man who had entered its domain had ever returned. Hercules, however, merely inclined his head. He did not question the order, nor did he show fear. Instead, he turned on his heel, striding out of the palace into the warm embrace of the Grecian sun. His next great trial awaited him. Hercules journeyed for days, the terrain shifting beneath his feet as he traveled beyond the rolling hills of Argos, past ancient olive groves, and into the dark, suffocating marshes of Lerna. Here, the land reeked of decay. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of stagnant water and rot. The sun barely pierced the dense canopy of twisted trees, their roots like skeletal fingers clawing at the earth. He pressed on, his keen eyes scanning the unnatural silence of the swamp. No bird sang, no crickets hummed. The world had been swallowed by an eerie stillness, a quiet that gnawed at the edges of his senses. It was as though the land itself recoiled from what lay ahead. The water beneath his sandals was thick with filth, bubbling with unseen movements below. Skeletal remains, half buried in mud, jutted out like mournful sentinels, their forms twisted in eternal agony. These were the remnants of those who had tried and failed to slay the Hydra before him. Still, Hercules pressed on. He was no ordinary man. He was forged in Olympus' fire, a warrior whose might had shattered armies. And yet, as he reached the heart of the swamp, a presence stirred. A low hiss slithered through the air, rattling the reeds, vibrating to the very marrow of the land. The water trembled. The wind, once absent, began to shift, carrying with it a stench so foul it made even Hercules' iron stomach clench. Then, from the darkness of his lair, the Hydra emerged. It moved like liquid shadow, its massive body rippling through the swamp with unnatural grace. 9 heads, each with eyes like molten gold, lifted into the air, their fanged mouths parting in unison to release a chorus of hissing screeches. Its scales, black as night, shimmered with an oily sheen, glistening in the dim light. The beast was far larger than Hercules had imagined. Its necks coiled like striking vipers, each head moving independently, yet with singular, malevolent purpose. From its throats dripped a thick, viscous venom, the droplets sizzling upon contact with the marshy earth. Hercules tightened his grip on his club. He had felled monsters before. The Nemean lion, the great boar of Erymanthus, each had fallen beneath his might. But as a Hydra loomed over him, its breath thick with the promise of death, he knew that this battle would be unlike any before. The beast struck first. One of its heads lashed out with terrifying speed, its jaws snapping mere inches from Hercules' face. He leapt back, twisting his body with godlike agility, and brought his club crashing down upon the attacking head. Bones shattered, flesh tore, and the severed head fell away, its eyes dimming as it sank into the mire. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a sickening squelch. Before his eyes, 2 new heads erupted from the stump, their fangs gleaming with fresh hunger. Hercules' heart pounded. This was no ordinary beast. This was a creature of divine chaos, a monstrosity that defied the laws of nature. For every head he severed, 2 would rise in its place. And yet, he did not retreat. The battle raged on, the swamp trembling beneath their fury. Hercules fought with the might of a god, his club swinging in wide arcs, crushing skulls, splintering bones. Each head he struck down was replaced by 2 more, the Hydra growing in strength rather than weakening. The beast was relentless. Its massive tail, thick as an ancient oak, lashed through the air, striking Hercules with the force of a hurricane. The impact sent him hurtling backward, his body slamming against the trunk of a dead tree. The bark cracked beneath the force, and for the first time, pain lanced through his ribs. He exhaled sharply, wiping blood from his mouth. His vision blurred for but a moment, Yet even that second distraction was enough for the Hydra to strike again. A stream of venom sprayed from one of its fanged maws, narrowly missing his face. The droplets that landed on his lion skin cloak sizzled, burning to the enchanted pelt, eating away at his protective fibers. Had the venom touched his flesh, it would have melted through muscle and bone alike. Hercules clenched his fists. He could not afford mistakes. Rising to his feet, he charged once more, his raw power shaking the earth with every step. His blows struck true, yet each head that fell was replaced by two more. His breath came in heavy gasps, sweat mixing with the filth of the swamp. The Hydra was winning. For the first time in years, Hercules felt exhaustion creeping into his limbs. Was this to be his end? Then, amidst the haze of battle, a glimmer of realization struck him. Fire. Fire was the answer. If he could cauterize the wounds before new heads could form, he could stop the Hydra's regeneration. Summoning his remaining strength, he let out a battle cry that shook the heavens. It was time for the final stand. The battle raged on, and with each moment, the Hydra grew stronger. The marsh trembled beneath their struggle, dark waters churning as the beast twisted and coiled, its monstrous head striking from every direction. The air became thick with the creature's venomous breath, a noxious miasma that clung to Hercules' skin and burned his lungs. His body ached, his muscles strained under the sheer effort of battle. He had fought for what felt like an eternity. Yet for every head he destroyed, two more rose in its place. His club, slick with the Hydra's vile ichor, had begun to feel heavier in his grasp. Sweat dripped from his brow, mixing with the filth that coated his skin. Even his lion skin cloak, once impenetrable, had begun to wear thin where the creature's venom had touched it. The swamp itself seemed to turn against him. The ground was treacherous, slick with mud and riddled with unseen pits of sinking sand. Each step was a struggle, and the Hydra, unhindered by the terrain, used the environment to its advantage. It lashed out with its mighty tail, striking the murky water with such force that waves of filth surged over Hercules, momentarily blinding him. For a fleeting moment, doubt crept into his mind. Was this beast beyond even his strength? Would this be the trial that finally broke him? No, he was Hercules. He had been forged in hardship, tested by the gods themselves. He had not come this far to be defeated. Drawing a deep breath, he leaped back, placing distance between himself and the beast. He needed fire, and he needed it fast. His eyes darted across the battlefield, searching for anything that could serve his purpose. And then, amidst the twisted reeds and skeletal remains, he found salvation, a patch of dry, gnarled wood at the swamp's edge. Moving with the speed of a man possessed, he retreated to the high ground, where his nephew Iolaus had been watching from a safe distance. Without hesitation, he grabbed a fallen branch and struck it against a nearby stone, sparks flying into the air. Again and again he struck, until at last, flames licked at the wood. Hungry and eager, with renewed determination, Hercules turned back to face the Hydra. The creature sensed a shift in momentum, its golden eyes narrowing. It let out a shriek, its many heads weaving in chaotic patterns, preparing for another assault. But Hercules was ready. Roaring with fury, he charged once more, his club striking with devastating force. A head flew from his shoulders, but before new ones could sprout, he pressed a flaming branch against the wound. The fire seared the flesh, blackening it, sealing it shut. The Hydra screeched in agony, its entire body convulsing as if it had never known pain before. One by one, he repeated the process, striking, burning, striking, burning. The swamp was alight with a glow of fire, thick smoke rising into the night sky. The air was filled with the stench of scorched flesh and venomous fumes. But Hercules did not waver. He moved with relentless precision, his blows swift and merciless. The Hydra fought back desperately. It lashed out with its tail, its remaining head striking wildly, but it was weakening. Its once majestic form was now broken, its movements sluggish. The infernal glow of its eyes dimmed with each cauterized wound. And then at last, only one head remained. The immortal one, the source of the Hydra's undying strength. The beast snarled, its single remaining head snapping at him with renewed fury. It knew this was its final stand. Its venom dripped in thick, bubbling strands, sizzling upon contact with the earth. But Hercules was unshaken. He had come too far to falter now. With a final mighty swing, he brought his club crashing down. The Hydra's last head was severed from his body, its form collapsing in a heap of blackened flesh. The swamp fell silent. The immortal head, severed but still alive, writhed upon the ground, its golden eyes blazing with unrelenting malice. It could not be allowed to remain. Hercules knew that if he left it here, it would grow again, its curse returning to haunt the land. With careful hands, he lifted the head, its fangs still gnashing in the air. He carried it to a deep pit and buried it beneath layers of rock, ensuring that it would never rise again. And just like that, the Hydra was no more.